All right. We have a good dear friend of mine, Dave Glick, on today's episode. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Thanks, Brad. How's it going today?
Good. So you tell us about you. What makes Dave Dave, and then we'll jump right in. Give us a 30,000 foot view of who you are and what you do.
Sure. Originally, I'm from New Jersey. Moved to Arizona in 1980 because my dad, my stepmom, and my sister moved here. And so, as I said, I grew up in New Jersey, in a town near Dover, and it's beautiful there, green, hot and humid in the summertime, very cold and lots of snow in the wintertime. And moved to Arizona. Moved to Prescott originally with my dad and my stepmom and my sister. And in 1982, I decided that I wanted my own business, and my dad helped me purchase that by taking a second mortgage out on his house. And so I owned that pizza restaurant for 23 years in Cottonwood in the Verde Valley here near Sedona. And in 2005, I was pretty done with it. Actually, I've been done with it for a long time. And so I sold it. And then I went to the computer repair business, and I did that for a total of about 20 years, overlapping with the pizza restaurant. And I'm just talking career-wise, of course. And then a couple of years ago, I decided to get out of the computer business and move into specifically internet marketing, search engine optimization, and website design, which I had been helping some businesses with over the course of the time that I was in the computer repair business and IT. And I decided that that was a lot of fun. And I really enjoyed doing that, working from home. Family-wise, I went to college in New Jersey at Trenton State College, which was then Trenton State College. Now it's the College of New Jersey, if I remember right. I met my now wife in college in chemistry class. A lot of people think that's really funny that I actually met her in chemistry class. And we went out for about a year and a half. And shortly before I moved to Arizona, we had broken up. And after I moved to Arizona, we both met different people, got married to those people, and then got divorced from those people. And then I called her out to Arizona to visit as a friend. And she fell back in love with me like that visit. And so we got together, and she moved out here about a year later. Got married and had four awesome kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. The 2 boys were first, 2 girls were second. And those 3 of those children now have children of their own.
Oof.
And so we have 11 grandkids right now, including 2 who were adopted.
You know, the best part about grandkids is you get to give them back.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what I tell people. And I tell my kids the same thing. I'm going to spoil the crap out of them, and then we're going to give them back.
And good luck.
And good luck, and have a nice day.
I keep telling my son that I can't wait for him to have children. Not like right now. I mean, he's 21, but I can't wait for that experience as a grandparent to just spoil the hell out of his children, and then have him see kind of those pain points that I received when he was a child.
Yes, and we as parents always wish upon our children the gifts that they have imparted onto us, especially the negative gifts.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we were going to talk about was soccer. So you're into soccer.
Yeah, totally. So it's long story short, or short story long, however you want to put it. So I did not play soccer when I was a kid. And as a matter of fact, in 6th grade, I remember being out for recess, and this kid was about 5 feet away from me. He kicked the soccer ball as hard as he could right into my gonads. And I'm laying on the ground screaming, thinking, I'm never going to play this game again. I'm never going to play this game again. So we were looking for things for my kids to do. My oldest was about 4, and we were looking for stuff for him to do. And I happened to owe the IRS some money from some financial difficulties I had from a business in the recession of 1991. And I went over in the IRS's office, and the gentleman there had all kinds of soccer pictures all over his office. And I said, "Oh, you're really into soccer, huh?" He says, "Yeah, it's an awesome sport, and my kids all did it, and they were awesome. It was an amazing, amazing experience." And so I said, "Oh, cool. Well," so I enrolled my son in soccer. And the first thing I said to his coach after, "Hello, how are you?" And she told me the practice day, and I said, "I own a restaurant. Is there any way that we can just change the practice time?" Of course, new parent, who the hell knew what was going on. And she's like, no, I can't do that. But you know what? You can coach next year. And and I said, okay. So I enrolled to coach the following year, and I didn't know anything about soccer. My two boys are a year and a half apart. They're 15 months actually, and every other year they were the same in the same age in soccer because it goes every other year. And so that year, both of them were in the same age bracket. So I coached them both on the same team. It was a U6 team, and that was my first experience coaching. And as they got older, I continued to coach them, and of course, then the girls were born, and so I coached them through U10, and then we wanted to do a tournament team, which is post-season soccer traveling. Sure. And so I said to the people who were doing this, I said, well, I'm willing to coach. I love coaching, but I really don't know what I'm doing, and so, but I'm willing to learn. And so they said, okay, well, you can coach because we don't have anybody else, and so you get chosen by default, by defunct.
So two things. One is a fun fact that I bet you didn't know about me, is that in my Army days, I played on the Fort Sill Army team, soccer team.
What'd you play?
I'm sorry?
What position?
Midfield.
Nice.
And I was not good.
Oh.
But for some reason, I made the team. I won't explain how I made the team, but I made the team based on the fact that I couldn't do anything very well other than play for a long period of time and pass well and play defense extremely well. But, I think I was probably halfway through my first year on the team before I actually started to understand the rules.
Right.
And I'm like, really? So I get to play on the team. I mean, the Fort Sill team, and that's kind of a big deal, right?
Right.
But anyways, I just kind of slid into the position. But I want to expound on something that's so I became my son's Boy Scout leader the same way you just explained in the coaching stuff.
Right.
Where my son goes from Cub Scouts to Boy Scouts, and we have like the first, summer picnic after he joins or transitions over. And, they said the assistant scoutmaster came over to me and he said, hey, we're curious to see if you'd be interested in volunteering as an adult leader. And I said, sure, man, whatever you need. Right. And next thing I know, he's like, yeah, we got our new scoutmaster. I'm like, oh, hold on a second, dude. I thought you were like talking about, I don't know, showing up with like popsicle sticks or something. But
right.
I ended up being the Boy Scout leader for like 3 years by, who wants to volunteer, and everybody takes a step back, and I'm the guy standing there, holding the bag, right?
Right.
So the question I want to ask is, the thing that drove me nuts about being a scoutmaster weren't the kids. I love the kids like there was no tomorrow.
Right.
It was the parents. I couldn't deal with the frickin' parents.
Yeah.
My kid deserves this, or my kid should blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, just shut the F up. You know what I mean?
Right.
How did you deal with that? Because you're way more mild-mannered than I am. I mean, did you kind of blow them off, or were you like, hey, no. Work on Johnny's playtime, or how did that work?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And so, and in soccer, if you remember your soccer days, the biggest problem is not necessarily how the coaches treat or the parents treat the coach. It's how the parents treat the referees.
Mm-hmm.
And so, at the beginning of every season, we had a parent meeting, right? And I gave the parents each a sheet of paper, and I said, look, I have some rules on this team. One of the rules is that I coach, you're the parent, you parent, the players are players, they play, and the referees are referees, they referee. And I said, if you have something to tell about the referee, towards the referee, or about the referee, you tell me. Mm-hmm. You don't talk to the referee. Right?
Sure.
If you've got an issue with me coaching, you talk to me about it. You don't talk to the other parents, you don't talk to the kids. And basically, I told them that, if you've got a problem with the way that I coach, guess what? There's next year you can coach. So, but I never actually had that problem. I didn't, because as I got more experience, go ahead.
What's the dumbest interaction you had with a parent? Like, I mean, I can tell you stories where, some parent would come to me and they'd say state whatever was on their mind, and I'd look at them with that dumb dog look. Like
Yeah.
I think I became dumber from listening to you. You know what I mean? Did you
Yeah.
ever have that? Do you have that one experience that stands out in your mind where you're dealing with a parent, you're like, yeah, you're an idiot.
Just, the only thing that really sticks out of my mind, because I didn't really talk to the parents a lot. I didn't have a lot of conversations with them, honestly. I mean, it really wasn't. Because when I coach, I mean, I'm there for the kids. I'm not there for their parent, for the parents. But the one thing that does stick out of my mind is that some parents, you tell them not to be late picking up your kids. And as many times as you tell them not to be late picking up their kids, there's always that one parent that is always late. And sometimes 15, 30, 45 minutes, an hour. And you're standing there like, okay, when is this parent going to be here? When are you going to be here? And I talked to one of the parents one time and I was like, practice was over an hour ago, right? Yeah, I know. And I'm really trying. And I'm like, you're not freaking trying hard enough. I mean, come on, seriously. I am not a babysitter. I am a coach. I have a life besides your kid's soccer team, and I need to get to it like right now. So, but other than that, I mean, I really didn't have a lot of negative conversations with parents at all. No conversations, just.
It's probably my personality, as far as like the argument and the abrasiveness. But the one that stands out in my mind is we had this young new scout named Jordan, and I don't even remember his last name, but
Mhm.
the kids, it was boy led versus boy fed, right? So you could either feed them everything and they're never going to learn anything, or allow
Right,
them to lead and make mistakes.
right,
So I always forced the kids to make up a menu for their camping trips, and then we would go to the grocery store and they would learn money management and all this other stuff.
right.
So this the one mother comes to me and said, "Well, I'm concerned with Jordan on this first camping trip because he doesn't eat meat." And I'm like, okay, well, in my mind, they have allergies and I'm going to care about that. But if they have, allergic dietary restrictions, if you will, I'll care about that. But choice is choice. Okay. So I kind of blew it off. And so we take the kids to Walmart to do their grocery shopping, and I couldn't find Jordan. Right. I mean, Jordan just disappeared. And by the time I found him, I told my son, I was like, go find this new kid, Jordan. I mean, we can't lose him in frickin' Walmart, for crying out loud, right? So finally, he walks down to the end of the aisle, my son does, and he turns around and he grins at me, right? And my son has this shit-eating grin that it's captivating, So he turns around and he does this grin to me, and I was like, what? And he's like, you gotta see this.
Oh, yeah.
I walked to the end of the aisle, and there's this little kid, Jordan, standing in front of all of the bacon. Right? He literally says, I say, hey man, what's up, buddy? Bacon. Right?
Nice.
So we go out on this camping trip, and this kid must have eaten like 5 pounds of bacon
Oh, my.
over the course of like 2.5 days, right? So on Sunday morning, we deliver the kid back. It wasn't even 2.5 days. It was like a day and a half or something. Sunday morning, we come back. The mom shows up, and this kid is sweating bacon.
Oh, my gosh.
It literally smelled like bacon, right?
Right.
And the mom walks up and said, I told you that, blah, 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 he doesn't eat meat. I said, no, you don't eat meat. And you don't want him to eat meat, but that's not the way Boy Scouts works, right? It isn't an extension of your family unit. The
Mhm.
kid cooked bacon and literally volunteered for a day and a half that he wanted to be the guy that cooked bacon every time because he wanted it fresh off
Mhm.
the grill.
That's too
Oh,
funny. Oh, my gosh.
coaching and parenting coaching and being adult leaders of different child-based things are just, they're fun in so many ways, and they're
Yeah,
frustrating in other ways.
they are.
But I know we're kind of on a tight timeline. I wanted to move into the next topic.
Sure.
Um,
Absolutely.
so
By the way, before you start with that,
yeah,
so I've been coaching pretty much on and off since that time. I had a JV boys. I've coached high school too, four times JV boys in high school. And then I was just hired to coach the varsity girls at the high school here, so that we should be moving into that season. So I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Are they going to have a season?
Yeah, we're expecting to have a season.
Okay. In the current climate, it's kind of up in the air, until
It
the
is.
last minute. But
It is.
so tell us about what you moonlight doing. So you have this really cool
Yeah.
side job that you've been talking
Yeah.
about, and I really want to get into that because I think we're going to hear some really humorous stories about things.
Okay, sounds good. So, in February of this year, one of my friends that I've known for a really long time said, "Hey, the census is looking for people to help them." I said, "Okay." He says, "I think you'd be really good at it, and I'd like you to go do it if you have the time." I said, "Well, I can find the time, and okay, I'll go ahead and do it." It took them until 3 weeks ago to finally get us trained because of the COVID thing.
Okay.
And so they got us trained, and I am now a census enumerator. And I was actually asked by one of the people that I went to why I do this. She wanted to know. I mean, she was serious. She really wanted to know, what was personal about it to me. It's personal to me because number one, it's a part of history. Okay. So, I mean, these things that we're doing right now, they're important to the government. They are important to the local, economy, because the more people that are enumerated, the more people that are in an area, the more government funds that they get. And of course, the number of representatives that are in the House of Representatives also increases or decreases based on the population of an area. And so, but the real reason that it's personal to me is because I'm actually the family genealogist, and I have seen census is from 1900, 1910, 1930, even I think even 1890 from my ancestors. And it is just the coolest thing to be able to sit there and see your relatives' names on this census sheet, and to be able to see what they put, where they're from, what they did, all this different information. Now they don't ask people now what they do, with how they make their living,
Sure.
but they did back then. And so I was able to get a lot of really great information about it. So I decided, okay, I'll go ahead and be an enumerator or a census taker, whatever you want to call it. So that's what I do. They want us to go out and do a lot of hours. And so we've been putting out, in 99 and 110 and 112 degree heat, we've been putting, 8-10 hours a day into doing census.
And you're literally going door to door out in the environment. So if it's raining, you're knocking on doors. If it's
thundering lightning,
I mean, you're in Arizona, so if it's 100,000 degrees, you're still going door to door, right?
We're going door to door. Yep. This is the time of year that it just happened to work out that they need this done, and they need it done as soon as possible.
So what are some of the struggles, or more, what are the struggles of doing what you're doing? Because you're knocking on a stranger's door.
Yeah, you are. And they they train you about how to approach people when you knock on the door.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they're like, be personable, and, try to do a quick connect. Quick connect is just something that, connects you to them. Like, oh, I love your roses, or, something along those lines. But honestly, in my opinion, the quick connect, it requires too much thought, and it requires too much effort, as far as that particular way to do it is concerned. So my quick connect is, hi, how you doing today? That's my quick connect. And they're like, fine, how are you today? Most of them. Some of them, not so much. What do you want?
So do you remember the old, I think it was Saturday Night Live skit with Eddie Murphy, Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood?
I did not see that one. No.
I'll send that to you after this. But,
okay. All right.
He plays Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
In the ghetto. And, this is how you answer the door in my neighborhood. Who is it? Right.
Right.
I'm a fairly forward and sociable person. I'm sure you would agree with that. Yep. I don't know if I could do what you do, because I don't know. I mean, I don't know how, honestly, Dave, I would deal with you showing up at my door.
Right.
When my doorbell rings, I never answer it. I'm literally
Yeah, in that case, we just leave a notice of visit,
Sure.
and we put the code on the paper, both in, on the English side and the Spanish side, and we fold it up and place it, as far in the door as we possibly can. And if they see it, and they complete it, great. And if they don't, we're back a few days later.
So let's talk about the importance of from the citizen side, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that people truly understand how important it is to participate. Can we expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the thing is that number one, the U.S. government requires everyone to be counted every 10 years in the U.S. Census. It is a requirement. It's not something that people can say, no, I don't want to do this. Somehow, some way, they are going to get counted, whether they complete the census or whether one of their neighbors, one of their friends, one of their caretakers, somebody who knows them is going to complete the census for them.
Sure.
So if they don't want to get the information wrong, if they don't want that information incorrect in the census, then it's a really good idea for them to complete it. So number one, it's a requirement, and it is, on the notice of visit, it says you are required to complete the census. One gentleman, guy, said, if I don't do it, is it illegal? And I said, well, it's not really illegal, but you are required, by the law to do this. So, it's not like you're, violating, you're not robbing somebody or anything like that, but you're not doing what you need to do as a responsibility as a United States citizen. And so that is one big aspect of it. And then the other aspect of it, or aspects I touched on, if the United States government does not get an accurate count of the number of people living in each individual region, then we don't get accurate representation in the House of Representatives.
Sure.
So, it's a ratio. You're limited to, I think it's 415 representatives in the entire House, right?
435.
So,
yep.
What's that?
435.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, you get a portion of that based on how many people are living in your area. And they delegate that. So if you don't have an accurate count based on, for the number of people, you're not going to go and you're not going to get represented properly.
Sure.
So that's another aspect of it. And then the final aspect of it is just the fact that the U.S. government provides funding for a lot of different state and local programs. Mm-hmm. And if you don't give the census the information that's required that they're asking, then they're not going to get an accurate count. So, like, for example, one problem that a lot of people have this year, the census is asking, do you own your home? And if so, is it under a mortgage, or are you free and clear, or do you rent, or do you live here without having to pay rent? It's amazing the number of people that are taking offense to that, because, and they're not asking, who do you owe the money to? Who's your mortgage with? How much do you owe? They're just asking a very general question. But people are like, well, that's a very personal question. Well, it might be kind of a personal question, but really, there's a reason for this question. And I just actually thought of that potential answer today. I'm thinking, well, with the economy crashing back in 2007 and 8, a lot more investors have come in and purchased real property. Mm-hmm. But the U.S. government isn't aware of whether people are coming in and investing in this property and then leasing the property out, or if there's homeowners. Sure. So they're trying to get an accurate count of who's renting and who owns their property for that particular reason. And I know that there's government programs that are tied to that as well.
Yeah. Do you think that HUD would be one of those programs that they're trying to, gain information for? Like first-time home buyer HUD programs? To try and gain a census of how many people are renting a home that would potentially be or qualify for a first-time homeowner program through HUD?
It could very well be possible. So one of the things that's important to know, for people to know when they are giving this information to a census taker or doing it online or over the phone, is that the information that they're giving, their personal information, is not shared with anyone. It's not shared with any other government agency at all, individually. Now, obviously, it's for statistical purposes, so that statistics are shared with other government agencies, but not that personal information. So your personal information is not given to anybody.
So what are some of the safeguards that are put in place? So let's say you show up to my house and I want to game the system, if you will. Mm-hmm. You show up and you say, hey, how many people live here? And I tell you 22.
Mm-hmm.
when really it isn't. Just
Right.
how does that work within that census program? So let's say I tell you that I have 21 children. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm just using hypothetical numbers, but how does that work?
Well, I'm going to ask you a question back. Why would you ask that? Why would you do that? Why would you lie to, what benefit do you think that it would give to you personally by not telling the census an accurate number of people living in your house?
I stopped trying to figure out why people do things. I'm just giving an exaggerated example. I mean, people's motivations are, um, I don't know. I could tell you a story about people's motivations, but it would definitely change this from a PG to a hard R-rated conversation. Um,
So there really is no benefit, to gaming the system. There's no personal benefit whatsoever, right? So it doesn't matter if you tell me 8 people or 4 people. I mean, obviously, we have to go through, who it was that lived there. Um, People are allowed to not know the information. Like if they don't know a certain aspect or a certain question of what we're asking at that time, we can put in don't know. Or if they don't want to give that information, we can put refused. Yeah, it's just refused. That's the way it is. But there's no benefit to exaggerating information or to giving false information. Um, Although you're not required to testify, you're not under oath to give this information. Although, maybe we don't say that you're under oath to give this information.
sure.
So, you know, so there's really, I haven't had anybody even ask me, well, can I tell you a, false number? I mean, some people are funny and they say, well, what about the dogs? And I'm like, well, yeah, they don't count. I love dogs, but they don't count.
But I have
And,
42 hamsters. They
I
matter.
even had I had one guy ask me about his yellow parrot. Does he count?
What's the so I'm assuming you're doing most I think it's opportunistic right now with the stay at home and the all of the other stuff that's currently going on or the current climate. You're probably catching a lot more people at home right now, aren't you?
Yeah, so they actually have a contest going on right now where if we do a certain number of enumerations per hour, if we complete them, then we get a bonus.
Really?
And it's like really low. It's like 0.75 per hour is, yeah, is what you're eligible for. And so I'm doing like 2 an hour, 2 to 3.
Sure.
So, and the other day I got 20 in 7 hours. I had 20 completed interviews in 7 hours. It was an amazing day.
How long does one of these take? And then I got to go because I have an old dog that's telling me he has to go out. So you
Aw, okay. Yeah, they only take 5 to 10 minutes.
so if you're knocking
Well,
door to door to door, you're giving substantial time. I mean, you
well,
could.
they're on a case list. They're actually on a case list.
Oh, so it's not just going
No.
door. Gotcha. Okay. So I misunderstood. I literally thought you were knocking on this door and then you're done and you go next door and canvas a
Oh,
neighborhood or something.
yeah, it depends on the case list. There are multiple addresses on the same street a lot of the time, but generally speaking, it's by. I mean, it's a case list that they give me,
Sure.
and so I look on the phone and it tells me what addresses that I need to go to.
How is that case list determined?
The census gives me the case list every day.
I wonder. I wonder if so it's possible that they could literally miss a house.
Pretty unlikely.
Okay.
Usually, it's the opposite scenario. So where they're trying to over enumerate a house. Like there was one address that I went to yesterday, and the county fire department and the post office all changed the address of this thing because it was wrong. The U.S. government had it wrong, and so it was a whole long thing. And this is pretty typical in a rural area. Like we had our address changed, not the number, but the street name, just because it was wrong. And so it was like, I don't know, 1520, for example, at one point. And then now it's 1520, 26 as an example. And so they had the enumeration for both addresses. And so I talked to the gentleman who was there and he says, yeah, this used to be that address, but it's not that way anymore, you know?
So is how long is this side project of yours go on until? I mean, is there a time frame, or is there, it started this date and you're supposed to be done by such and such?
Well, so the U.S. Government has a mandate that all census data is turned in by December 31st of that year. But that means that it all has to be put in and it all has to be tabulated. And so that takes time as well.
Sure.
I know that they want to get this done by September 30th at the very, very latest. And I think they're trying to hit for the end of this month. I don't know if that's going to happen, though.
Sure. And then they do the census how often?
Every 10 years.
And most people aren't aware of that. So it's literally every decade they're going through and redoing everything.
There is a major census sometime every 10 years, every decade. So sometimes there's a minor census like every 5, but it just depends. But they do the major census every 10 years, and everyone has to be counted in the United States.
So let's apply tech to a moment. Where do you think this goes from a technology standpoint 10 years from now based on technology? Because you're a tech dude, right? So am I.
Right.
So in my mind, from a census standpoint, we have enough technology that we should probably be able to enumerate how many bodies are living in a house over an extended period of time based on utility usage.
Well, the problem is that people move all the time. I mean, literally, there are people who moved in on April 8th of this year, but they're not counted because April 1st is Census Day. So if the home was vacant on April 1st, April 1st is the Census Day. So that means that whoever was living wherever at that time on that day is where they're counted. So like I had one today, they were asking me, what about my daughter? And what do I do about my daughter? And she's living with her boyfriend over there. And I'm like, well, yeah, but they're not living here. They weren't living here on April 1st, right? Nope. So they're not counted. So and people move. I mean, people can be moving on March 31st. They can move on April 1st.
Sure.
If they live there on April 1st, and that's the question, did you live here on April 1st? And if so, you are counted at this address.
So let's do a 2-minute closeout because I know you have to go too.
Yep.
So based on everything that we've talked about, if you wanted to give the people who watch this video your 2 cents worth in 2 minutes of things that are important based on what we talked about, what would those be?
I would say, first of all, be nice, especially to the census takers. It's not their fault. They're just doing their job. And don't slam the door in their face. If you're busy, just let them know you're busy. Offer to complete the census online. They'll give you a notice to visit. They'll give you the special ID. And, please do that within 48 hours of the time that they give it to you, because otherwise they're just going to come back. Sure. That's a really important thing for this time, as far as the census go. And as far as, coaching and soccer in general and things like that, as far as being a parent goes, if you're a parent of a soccer player and that player is on a team and somebody else is coaching, let them do their job, and be nice and don't yell at the referees. Referees make mistakes too. I am a referee. I've been a referee since 1998. And so one of my least favorite things about the job is having to, tell parents, hey, let's cool it. That's enough. I'm out here doing my job. And guess what? If you're out there yelling at me for doing my job the best to my ability, guess what's going to happen? All I'm going to think about is you yelling at me and what happens in the next play. Oh, I forgot. Oh, yeah, I didn't see that. I'm so sorry about that. Darn it. Sure, I missed it. So let the referee do their job. Regardless of what you think, it's just a game. And 99% of the time, the referee's not going to lose the game for you. Yeah, there is that 1% where that could happen, but it's pretty rare.
We used to call it. Do they still call it? We used to call the zebras. Do they still do that?
You used to call the referees what?
Zebras.
No. You're talking about the black and white shirts, right?
Yeah.
It was no.
Well,
and in baseball, they call them blue.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, the first time I heard my dad say that, because he used to play softball. And the first time I heard my dad say that, I'm like, what? What'd you say? Blue? Yeah, that's what they call the umpires in baseball, is blue.
Interesting.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, Dave, and I know you
Thanks for having me.
Do your stuff, so
yep.
Let's do this.
10 minutes.
Let's do this again soon. It was fun.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Brad. Good
Thanks,
to
Dave.
talk to you. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.